Hi there, welcome. I'm Ron LeGrand, and I have been around for about 32 years now, teaching people how to buy and sell houses without using their money or credit. And I'm going to bring you 3 lessons where it'll show you exactly what we do and how we do it. And literally I'm going to take you through them step by step. And the purpose of these 3 lessons is the 2 fastest ways to make money in real estate today, and I'm going to share those with you. You're going to be excited because I've got people doing exactly what we're going to be discussing by the thousands all over North America. Before I get started on the lessons, you probably want to know a little bit about who I am, because it's likely, I find this hard to believe, but it's likely you really don't know who Ron LeGrand is. So I'm going to assume that you're on this video and maybe you're just getting exposed to me. Perhaps you took me up on my dollar offer or you didn't. Either way, what we're going to cover here is absolutely applicable to you if you have interest in making a lot more money a lot faster and without working yourself to death in the process. Have you ever thought about buying and selling houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? Are you working so hard trying to make a living you don't have time to make any real money? Are your kids wondering who you are because you don't get to spend much time at home? Maybe you're just sick and tired of being sick and tired. Well, hey, I hear that a lot. Let me tell you a little bit about me, and then we're going to get going because we've got a lot to cover on these short lessons. Well, my story is actually pretty simple. I started back in 1982 as a bankrupt mechanic, working my butt off all day, every day in the hot sun, trying to make a living fixing other people's cars. Actually, I had been married 17 years when I first got into real estate. We had 4 children, and my story all begins with a washing machine. One day I came home and my wife said, "Hun, the washing machine is broke. Could you get us a new one, please?" And that started an argument because I didn't want to buy a new washing machine. That would cost me $200 or $300 more than getting the one that we had fixed. So we got into a heated argument. In fact, we argued all evening about that washing machine. And both of us went to bed upset. And I lay there in the middle of the night. It hit me, "Ron, what an idiot you are. Your wife of 17 years asked you to buy her a brand new washing machine so she could wash the clothes for you and your 4 children, and you want to argue with her about it. What an idiot." I realized right then and there that something had to change in my life because I had no intentions of spending the rest of it, not even be able to afford a new washing machine. So I started looking, and ultimately I found real estate. I attended my first seminar back in 1982, and when I came out of that thing, it was 3 weeks later I got my first check for $3,000, and I told my boss, "I'm upping my income, up yours," and I haven't been back since. Well, since that time we bought a lot of houses. In fact, over 3,000 of them to date. I quit counting a long time ago. Don't see any reason to count. And I've had the big boats and still have the big multi-million-dollar house. And I've had 6 airplanes to date so far. And I've spoken on the biggest stages in the country and the smallest stages, from rooms the size of 20 all the way up to 20,000. And I've actually spent time and even hired some of the most famous people in America today and paid them an awful lot of money to speak on my stages. As time progressed, I learned this real estate business by doing it and making an awful lot of mistakes, and that's the reason I'm creating these videos to you. My goal here is to try to encourage you to get into real estate, but without making the same mistakes I did, and get to the money very, very quickly.
Closed on one that we picked up and we flipped and got a $7,500 check, and it was actually our first deal.
Made over $10,000. Man, this is pretty easy.
$65,000 for a day's work and for coming to the seminar.
That's what it's all about.
And netted $259,158.
Here's the checks.
Oh my God.
So I got a check after all closing costs and taxes and everything else I paid for the sale. I got a check for a little over $250,000. This man just made me a lot of money.
After everything, the check to me was $32,000.
That's
$99,000.
Here's a check.
On one house. And how long did you have it?
About less than 30 days.
We both walked away with over $100,000.
When it was all said and done, it was a $90,000 profit.
Wow. That's a nice paycheck.
All right, to get started, I think we probably should have a discussion on why real estate, because there's an awful lot of things that you can be doing with your time. So let me make a case for coming onto Planet Ron and thinking about real estate, either as a part-time or a full-time business or career. Let's just go down the list. Number 1, everything that I'm going to teach you does not require your money. In fact, if you use your money, you're probably doing it incorrectly. We're going to talk about making money without money, and most certainly without using your credit. This is the biggest mistake you can make right here. Do not use your credit to buy houses, contrary to conventional wisdom. I'm going to show you some examples here, and you'll see just exactly how you can buy all the real estate you want without credit. In fact, you can buy a whole lot more without credit than you can buy with credit, because there's only so many houses they will finance for you before they're going to cut you off, and that assumes that your credit is good enough for that to begin with. Number 3, big paydays. I'll show you some examples where you'll see checks are in the thousands. In fact, the minimum check that I want any of my students to get is $10,000. From there, we go up. No employees, unless you want them. You may want 1 or 2, but certainly not in the beginning, maybe never. Today, we have all the work done for us, about 90% of the work that gets done in my business. And my business is here in Jacksonville, Florida, where I live. And we still do 6 to 12 houses every single month, and incidentally, it requires almost none of my time. I don't work more than 2 or 3 hours a month in real estate. Now, you'll work more than that in the beginning, but my whole goal is to get you to the point where you make a part-time business into a full-time income without it having to suck up your life. The whole purpose of having a business is to have it provide for you, not it to suck up your life, and my guess is you probably got enough to do right now, if I'm correct. No risk. In fact, we're going to take the risk away from you, because if you don't write checks and you don't guarantee debt and you don't make promises you can't keep, you've got very little at risk here, and almost no overhead. In most businesses, and I've had many of them, the overhead can put you out of business. Trust me, I've had businesses where that exact same thing happened. Can't happen in real estate because your overhead is almost nil. You'll have a little bit of expense along the way, but as compared to any other business, I call it no overhead. Cash flow and wealth. You see, we can get money now, money monthly, and build wealth simultaneously using real estate as our foundation. And we can do it tax-free inside of our Roth IRA. In fact, below this video, you will find a link that will take you to an audio seminar that I did answering questions about how to use a Roth IRA to do everything that I'm going to discuss with you on the next 3 videos. Want to grow wealthy? Might as well grow wealthy tax-free. You'll get there a lot faster that way. And we're going to put it on autopilot. Everything that we do, we get others to do most of the work, get out of the way, so we can do what entrepreneurs should be doing, and that is making decisions and getting everything else done by other people. So let's move over here to this side. Let's talk about the profit centers in the business, because there are literally 5. Now, of course, there's profit centers within the business, but this is by and large the whole business right here. We can wholesale houses, which is what I'm going to talk to you about on this lesson, and we can retail houses. This means we buy them, we fix them up, we resell them, we find a qualified buyer, and we cash out, and we get a big check. I've done about 600 or 700 of these, and maybe 1,000 of these over my 32 years in this business, and it is a good way to make money in real estate. In fact, wholesaling is where most people start, and it is one of the 2 fastest ways to get a check. That's why I'm going to cover it in this lesson. I call this the ugly house business because actually it's really a synonym for all cash. When I say ugly house, I mean all cash. Today, we buy most of these properties from banks, bank-owned properties, or REOs as we call them, which stands for real estate owned. Banks already foreclosed on them. So these are all cash purchases. Now don't get excited, because the first question you're going to say is, well, where am I going to get the money? Well, in the case of wholesaling, you don't ever get the money. Our job is to put it under contract and then flip it, probably to an investor, pick up a check for $10,000 or more without ever buying the house. Again, I'm coming back to that. But this is the all cash side of the business. Down here, however, is the pretty house side of the business that requires little or no cash on your part. And our money comes from, I'm going to say this slowly now, so I hope you get this. If you're watching this and you're brand new to real estate, this is one of the biggest and first lessons you want to learn, and that's how to get money out of beautiful homes in beautiful neighborhoods. Because the easiest money in business is putting a property under contract to either purchase with owner financing or purchase with a lease purchase and the right to sublease the property out to a tenant buyer. When you do either one of those things, we get non-refundable option deposits from tenant buyers or down payments from buyers we finance because we have been given the right to buy it with owner financing. So let me say that again. Our big front-end money comes from either non-refundable option deposits when we install tenant buyers in houses that we have either own or have under contract with a lease purchase, and or if we buy them with owner financing or agree to, we can sell them with owner financing and get a down payment. These checks start at $10,000 and go way up beyond that, depending on the price range of the houses you want to deal in. I'm going to come back on lesson 2 and 3 and go through this part of the business. And frankly, if you don't get excited when I go through this part of the business, there's not much hope left for you, because this is where the biggest money in real estate is being made today, right here in the pretty house business, once you understand it. We're also going to get spreads on our monthly rent. We pay X numbers out to the seller, we collect Y from the buyer. Y should always be bigger than X. Rule number 1, we keep the difference. We're either going to be collecting rent and making a rent payment if we're lease optioning, or we're going to be collecting a mortgage payment and making an underlying payment if we bought it with owner financing. And then down here, of course, when our buyer finally gets to the point to where they lived in the house several months, they cleaned up their credit or whatever issue they have, they'll go get a loan to buy the property and finance it, and at that time, all the rest of the money coming to us is due, and anything we owe the seller is paid off automatically out of that closing. So we get an immediate chunk within a few days from deposits and down payments, monthly spreads, and on the back end, when we get cash out, we get another check. We get paid today, paid monthly, and paid later. That's called residual income, and this is my favorite kind. Sometimes all we get is the front end check. Sometimes we don't get the monthly, or we don't get a back end, because sometimes we actually assign our contract and get what we can and get out of it. I'll come back to that when I show you some real live examples. All right, so we got the ugly house business and we got the pretty house business. There's 2 different businesses within the same realm of real estate, and there's 2 different approaches. So we're going to go through that, how we find them, how we sell them, and the whole works. So Elliot, if you'll scroll over here for me for a minute. By the way, folks, if you want to take screenshots of this, go right ahead. You probably should. I'm going to talk about it, but I know how fast that's going to go away if you don't write this stuff down. At least take screenshots of it. These are your 5 steps to success. Frankly, these are the 5 steps to success of any business, including real estate. If you are a doctor, you have these same steps. If you are a retailer, if you're a restaurant, if you're a real estate agent, if you're a real estate investor, these are your 5 steps to success. Step 1, locate prospects. If we don't locate prospects, we don't need to worry about the other 4 steps, because we don't have a business. Many businesses go into business and they forget. It's one thing to know how to deliver your product or service, but you better darn sure know how to find people that are interested in your product or service, or your business is not going to work out real well. Fortunately for you, I've made this real easy. You don't have to worry about locating them, so you can focus on pre-screening prospects, which is number 2. There's suspects and there's prospects. Prospects are people who want to do business with us and allow us to purchase their home, either at a deeply discounted price for all cash or with terms. And that's a word you want to write down. That's a 5-letter word, terms, T-E-R-M-S. Because in the pretty house side of the business, if we don't get terms, we can't buy the house. Very, very simple. We'll work with the sellers who will give us terms. In lesson 2, I'm going to come back and show you exactly what I'm talking about and how easy it is to get these people pre-screened out before they even come into your life. Number 3 is construct and present offers. This is pretty simple because we've actually done that by the time we get through pre-screening, and I'll show you how that's done for you by simply reading scripts that I'm going to provide to you. In fact, they'll be loaded in lesson 2. All the scripts you need will be right there in lesson 2. Follow-up, that means, great, we have an oral conversation here. Now we've got to get down to the point to where we get it in writing, which means we're going to have to go to the house after they've been pre-screened and visit them and come out with a simple purchase and sale agreement, which I'm also going to provide to you as well in the lesson 3. Close quickly means if I'm lease purchasing it, as soon as I get an agreement with the seller, I've closed for now. Now I'm going to kick it into buying mode. If I have a purchase and sale agreement where I'm going to buy it with owner financing, then I have to set up a closing with the attorney, and that's going to be done either immediately if I want to go ahead and close on it myself because it requires little or nothing down, or it can be done when I find the buyer if my goal is to find the buyer and let the buyer bring in the money to do the closing with so I can get a check. That might not make much sense to you right now, but it will as we go through these examples. So there are your 5 steps if you want to take a screenshot of them. Step 1, locate prospects. pre-screen prospects, deal with the people who want to deal with you, construct and present offers, and by the way, by the time you've pre-screened them, the seller is going to have constructed and present an offer to you, not the other way around. You'll know exactly what they'll take by the time you get through that process by reading simple scripts. And then follow up and close quickly. Master those 5 steps and the business becomes easy. All right, well, let's get started on those steps right now. But what I'm going to start on now is wholesaling a house right here. Because this is one of the fastest ways to make money. I'm going to go through those steps with you. But I should remind you, you probably got an an opportunity to get my entire wholesaling course for $1. If you didn't get that opportunity, go to Ron's Dollar Deal right now and pick up this course. You can get it downloaded very inexpensively, or we can ship it to you, whichever one you want. By the way, there's no way you could pay me to download all this thing. This thing has got a whole day's worth of seminar in it, step-by-step instructions. I listen to them in my car. I don't know where you listen to them, but I would want the hard copy. Your choice. So go back and go to ronsdollardeal.com when you get through here, and make sure you get this, because I'm going to briefly go through this process today, but this goes through it in deep detail with all the tools that you need right there. So I'm going to go over here to the computer, and I'm going to show you how we find prospects. Remember step 1, locating prospects. If I want to wholesale them, most of them come from the bank. So I'm going to show you the actual source that I use, and you can get one very similar to it to where you live. All right, first I got to introduce you to Tish. This is my personal assistant for a long time now. How long?
A little over 10 years.
10 years. Put up with me for 10 years. That ought to tell you something. And I brought Tish in because I'm going to have her work the computer for what I'm about to show you. Because behind me is what is called listingbookcom. So take a look at Tish, because you might see her in some live event somewhere. All right. Thank you, Tish.
No problem.
All right. Guys, I'm on listingbook.com. However, that may or may not be where you live. Regardless of what the site is where you live, you need a realtor to get you hooked up to it. Because the properties that come to me every single day come right into my inbox, come right through here on this site. I'm going to show you in a second here. So find a realtor who can hook you up with whatever they call it where you live, so you can get an immediate feed every day of all the bank-owned properties and all the new listings and all of the price changes in whatever price range that you want in whatever area of town you want them in. And what I've done here is I want anything listed below $50,000, because when I'm in this side of the business, I want to really get cheap. Now I said listed for 50, I didn't say worth 50. Remember, these properties all need work on them. Most bank-owned properties, at least that I'll touch, need work on them, so they need some sort of renovation. I find today, though, that they're not really all that bad, which is what I'm about to show you. However, when I'm making offers on all cash properties, of course, I got to make those offers low. If you'll download my wholesale course, you'll see the formula that I use and the steps that I go through, which I can't possibly put on this short video. But go get that course and listen to it, and you'll see exactly how I make offers, how I choose them out of the MLS system, and how I pick them off of here to determine which ones to pull up. So watch how easy this is. This is today's listings that came in today. I tell you, honestly, I've never seen one with 3 listings that don't have pictures on them. Usually they all have pictures. So for the sake of clarity here, Tish, let's go pull up the one that does have pictures. That house was listed for $49,900. Now look, that's not my dream house, I'll tell you that. But it is a house, and it's listed pretty cheap. So look what you get. You punch on the picture, it showed you the address. Here comes a fact sheet. See, I know that's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's 1,262 square feet, built in 1926, so it's an old house. I know exactly where it's at in town. And look, there's the remarks on it. So it's an adorable house sitting on a double lot. Yeah, it's really adorable, all right. So scrolling on up, and look, my friends, everything that I'd want to know about that house is right there. I mean, it used to be that we actually had to get in a car and go ride around, look at vacant houses before we could make offers on them. Today we don't. Scroll it back down, Tish, and I'll show them why we don't today. If you'll go right over here, look at here. This house has got 22 full-color pictures. Pop on that, please. Look at there. I can sit on my desk, on my iPad, and look at the insides of the house. And I don't know whether you can see them well enough or not, but I'm looking at these pictures. There you go. look, this house is pretty decent inside. It certainly doesn't need much work. And so I know by looking at those pictures that I've got a house that I can buy here that's just darn near ready to sell. And the asking price is $49,900. Now I know, because I know that area, that that property is probably worth in the 80s or so. But of course, if you didn't know that, you would have to pull up some local comps, and you can do that right here on this same site. So gosh, how easy can it be? That's called Listing Book. And I think that's all you need to know about this for the sake of this video. So whatever source you can get where you're at, just have your realtor plug you into it every single day. Now let's go through the rest of the steps after we pull off the ones we want. By the way, this is just one source for finding these kind of properties, but I can tell you this is where 95% of our properties come from today when we buy bank-owned properties. Okay, so now we see which houses we want to target. And by the way, I target the lowest price houses that I don't think are in areas where I'd fear for my life if I went into. Give yourself a little bit of time and you'll figure out those out where you're at if you don't already know. So the next step is, I pulled it up, I've got all the information. I got everything I need to make an offer on the house. Now you might say, well gosh, don't you go see it first? I'm coming there, just relax, I'll get there. I do not go see it before we make the offer. So to make an offer today, I pull up all the facts I need, I pull up the pictures, I see what kind of shape it's in, and then I send an offer to my realtor, to the realtor who set me up on Listing Book or whatever source you're using. How do you send an offer? It's called email. I just send the number, and I send the address, make this offer. And the realtor does. And by the way, go back to the wholesale course now. I go through this process step by step where I have time to focus on each one of them. I'm doing the best I can here with the short window that I've got. So I send the email to the realtor, and I'll do 6, 8, 10 offers at a time usually about once a week. Then the realtor processes all of these offers and do whatever they do with them after, submits them to the banks, and I get about 1 out of 12 come back and say, yes, I'll accept your offer. So once I get that call back from the realtor says, hey, they've accepted your offer. Sometimes they want me to counter. Sometimes they just tell me to go jump in the lake. But about 1 out of 12 say yes. Okay? Then I go to the next step. As you'll see on your screen right now, the next step is we have to get a contract. Well, that's the good news about these bank-owned properties. The realtor gets the contract, you don't. The realtor has to fill it out and send it to you for your signature, and you've done none of the work. So far, what have you done? You've sat at your desk and you've emailed an offer. That's the amount of work you're into so far for buying these bank-owned properties. Now you wait. Now when you get one accepted, now and only now do you get in your car and you go out and take a look at the property. You want to make sure that the property's as it's represented, because sometimes they aren't. Pictures can fool you. So you don't ever want to proceed to a closing without examining the property and the surroundings first. I got to tell you, a few times I went out to the house and I found things that I didn't know about, and I immediately canceled it. Called a realtor and said, I'm not buying this one. You didn't tell me there was a toxic waste dump next door, or whatever the problem is. So if it's a go, now the next step is to get your realtor an earnest money deposit. Now that minimum on these properties around the country is going to be about $1,000. So it will take about $1,000 if you want to play this part of the business. If that's a problem for you, stay tuned to videos 2 and 3, because you won't need the $1,000 there. So I put up my deposit, and we generally get about 30 days to close, which is normal and acceptable throughout the country. The next step is to check the title, because we do not want to take this property to the market unless we know we have clear title. So how do we do that? Simple. We just call a title company or have a realtor do it for us and make sure we're clear, and that takes 2 or 3 days. And since you're buying this property, you might even use the same title company the bank's going to use, and they might even be paying for it. It's a case-by-case thing. So we got to make sure we got clear title. Then our next step is to put it on the market. And of course there's 2 ways to do that. We're either going to advertise to our existing buyers list, if we have built one, or we're going to create one along the way, and then the next time we get a property under contract, we just put it into our buyers list. You see, all you have to do is let the world know that you have a good deal, and they'll be the path to your door. Take a look at the ad on your screen right now. Handyman special, cheap, cash, and your phone number and your email. Handyman special, cheap cash, your phone, and your email. That means they can communicate with you by phone or by email. If they communicate with you by email, you can just simply send them back the address of the house and what your asking price is. By the way, your asking price better be at least $10,000 more than what you agreed to pay the bank. That, my friends, is how you make money. Don't forget that part. The chunk of coming in has got to be bigger than the chunk of going out. So make sure that you learn how to construct these offers low enough to where you can get that $10,000 or more. Again, that's in my wholesale course. There's a formulaic approach to that based on the value after repaired and the amount of repairs that we think that it needs within the ballpark. So if you do not have a buyer's list built yet, then you simply run ads on the internet. I use Craigslist heavily. A lot of our buyers come from there, but there's a whole lot of other sites where you can put free ads on. So here's a test question. How many free ads can you run before you run out of advertising money? And then that'll be on the test. The answer is, of course, all you want. So we put the ads and then here they come. The buyers contact you either by email or by phone. You send them out to the house to take a look. No, they can't get in. They don't need to get in. Believe me, people are going to buy these properties at a discounted price. Do not have to get inside to make a decision. They might want to get in before the closing, but you can arrange that with a realtor. So the last thing you want to do is go trucking around trying to show houses. Besides, this is not your house. Don't forget, you do not own the house. Therefore, you can't let people in a house you don't own without the seller's permission. And in this case, you don't have it. You don't need it. They'll drive by, they'll look in the windows. My friends, I bought at least 600 houses doing just exactly that. Anybody buying these things from you can see all they need to see by looking in the windows. So they go by, they like it, they call you or they email you, and they accept your price or they try to beat you up a little bit. Hold your price. If you said it correctly the way I taught you in that wholesale course, you do not need to lower it. And now it's just a matter of sending them a simple assignment of contract, getting them to sign it, send it back with a deposit. The closing agent will close the purchase of the bank, and most likely you will assign your contract to the buyer, and the buyer will then bring the money to the table, which will include your $10,000 or more. Now I know that was a pretty simplified version of wholesaling, but to be honest with you, that's it in a nutshell. But for crying out loud, get this. Now you have two choices. You can download this thing. You can get the printed version of it sent to you, just like I'm holding here, along with this course called Work for Equity System. These two go hand in hand, and I'll tell you why really quickly. When I buy an offer and pay a property and pay cash for it through a bank, I don't rehab it and retail it. I put Work for Equity tenant buyers in there, which is this course, which means I put a tenant buyer in there. It is their responsibility to do all of the repairs with their money and their labor. I discount the price some to compensate them, thus the term Work for Equity, but I don't touch the house. When I get more time to spend with you, you'll quickly see why this exit strategy gets you 3 to 4 times the amount of money as rehabbing and retailing does. Plus it gets somebody in the house quickly and get your cash flow coming in and cut your tax bill in half because it's long-term capital gains by the time they cash you out. This, my friends, is a whole business in a box right here. This course sells for $497 by itself. Guess what you have an opportunity to get right now? I will ship this course to you, and I'll ship this course to you. Both of them for $197. You got over $1,000 worth of courses right here. I'll see you on the next video.
In the closing, I picked up a check for $175,697.16.
We bought 6 houses in 9 days. That was a kick butt week.
I did 1.5 in 6 months because I keep on going back and back. I keep on going to find houses.
We were able to make just over $1 million in cash and equities.
We did 9 deals our first year that we rehab and retail for a net profit of $366,000.
Wow.
Which has created time to be a full-time mom and dad, which is priceless. And I have you to thank for it.
I got to have a hug for that one.
In less than a year, I did over $680,000 in flips. In that same year, I was able to keep 7 properties that pays me a monthly cash flow, a positive cash flow of right at $5,000 a month. I'm grateful, and I thank God that He sent me to LeGrand because this is the real place to learn. And I actually feel sorry for people that got trained by other people because they got a partial education. This is the real deal. He's a guy that has integrity. You can trust what he says. And if it wasn't true, I wouldn't stand up because I don't get a dime from one day in here today. I'm just here to say I'm thankful that I was able to be trained by Ron. And you won't do wrong by following him.